Good.
I didn't print it out. Sure. Okay.
All right, there's Bill. Next item on the agenda is solar rides discussion, solar rides reimbursement or clarification.
Yeah, I'm happy to kick things off, gentlemen. Thank you for having us on the agenda today. I think the purpose of today's discussion, we want to clarify the process, the facts, and what happens with the DUI task force. I know that there may have been some information that was conveyed to the commissioners last week that could have been misconstrued. And I think it's important for the task force board to be transparent and to be open and honest about what we're trying to do and what the task force is accomplishing and how it's trying to accomplish those goals. And I think as far as the Free Sober Rides campaign, it's an evolving thing. You know, it's not like something that's been going on for 30 years and we have all the kinks ironed out. But I think it's a great program, and I think it's something that we should continue doing because of the, you know, the purpose. You know, and if we do some data collection and stuff moving forward, with trying to reduce people driving drunk on Labor Day weekend, I think we can all agree that's a good thing. But you know, without you know, having to spend a bunch of extra money on things that aren't the purpose of the program. You know, I know there's some concerns about a free taxi service and everything. That's something that I think Maria can address. You know, I think that the mission is a good mission, and I think that it's I think that it's productive. And I think that right now there are some numbers that kind of back that up. But we want to just, you know, as the task force, want to make sure that we're doing things right, that we're spending any money that is allocated to the task force, whether that's from the county or private donations, make sure that every dollar is spent effectively to ensure that the program accomplishes its mission and can develop and grow and continue to be a good resource that provides, you know, an element of safety with events and things that people do that aren't necessarily a safe thing to do. You know, going downtown and drinking much. So, you know, with that, I'd like to turn things over to Maria,
Thank you.
the vice chair of the DUI task force.
Thanks so much for being here today and for letting me get on the agenda. Dana, thank you for your help on that. I've been running this free sober rise program for 4 years, but it's been in existence for 6 total. Originally, the Change 406 group had it under Kim Martinell, and I think Andrea Sure ran that program. When I got it, we were doing about 121 rides. I took it over because Kim's father died, and she was grieving, and so she asked if I could help with it, and I've been running it ever since. So all that, except for last year, was volunteer work. Last year I was paid to do execution of the campaign, and it was Sky that brought it up and thought it was a lot of work and just thought that we should, it's more than what most volunteers do. It's a really intensive program. The systems are built and the foundation is set, but I think as a DUI task force, I had been notified that the commissioners meeting happened last week, and I wasn't informed nor was invited to the meeting, and I didn't get a chance to really have an opportunity to tell you what the campaign was all about. Right after the campaign, I should have, like I did the previous year, set up a meeting with you guys to give you a recap, because we've done that year over year. And we didn't do it this last year. I was busy, and I figured you guys already knew because we've been in here before talking about it. So anyway, when the meeting came to my attention, you know, I went through and just wrote a list of the things that I felt like were concerns of yours, and I'm here today to be accountable for that. Natalie supported me on the program. This was the first year that we hired a trainer, that we said we reimbursed a trainer that would take over for me because I was trying to hand it off. When we got mid-campaign, and speak to this if you want, Natalie realized that it was a lot of different skills that it needed to have, and she wasn't comfortable taking on the whole thing herself. And so that was addressed in the meeting. Do you want to say anything about that?
I will. So when I heard about this program, I had every intention of taking over, just knowing that Maria and others had set the groundwork. I was really confident that it would be well set up for somebody to take it over. Knowing it was ran by one person, I felt like I had the time for that. Right now I'm working half-time for the county. I've also run a lot of programs. I've helped with major productions and other things. And so I felt confident to do it. And I would say that Maria handed over everything, all these electronic files. We met in person a couple of times, and very quickly after that, I could see that I did not have the time or the expertise to do it, that it would take, in my opinion, it would take multiple people. I don't know how Maria was doing it by herself. So I let her know that right away, that I would still try to be there as best as I could, that I would be there for what I had let her know I would be there for on the long day over Labor Day weekend, but that I couldn't take over the program.
Are you a board member?
I'm not.
So, how the campaign works is I raise $12,000 a year across 4 sponsors that have re-upped year over year for the last 4 years. I did return all the receipts and driver logs and reconciliations, and Natalie checked the work on that as well. And that, I delivered that to Shannon when she was on vacation, and didn't really hear anything until I saw the video. I was hoping we would be able to sit down and have a conversation about any questions that we might have, but that was not something that happened. So, in terms of the program integrity, Sky talked about this. I'm really interested in finding out what your concerns are and to really answer any questions that you have and to work towards improving anything that needs to be improved. But I've documented the program. I've done surveys, an executive recap, all the financial pieces, and I report in almost every free sober meeting. I mean, it is kind of a free sober meeting because it's about all we do. We do one other program, scholarships. But I report in, and then we're constantly evaluating and hearing from people. I put a driver survey out. There's a recap that we're working on right now with that. So I listened to the video, the meeting from last week, and I'd just like to hear any questions that you might have. And anyone here can answer anything.
I guess my big question is I can understand the ride home, but I can't understand the home downtown. Yeah.
So I can speak to that a little bit in terms of over the years, and I've heard this from Rebecca at the chamber, it's driving tourism. People are calling the hotels and asking if we have a ride service because they want to come here and they want to party. That's who we are. That's who Dylan is. We know that this is a drinking culture, and that's why we expanded the Free Sober Rides campaign, which we as a total DUI task force decided to do and have done for the last few years. In terms of if you know you're going to party and you don't want to bring your car in town because you're afraid you're going to drive it home, our rationale for picking those people up when they call in is because we know they're not taking their vehicle in, and that is a preventive measure in our opinion in order of not driving home. And so I guess that's that. I guess I see it.
And that's something that, offering that's not something that's unilateral, a decision that's unilaterally made by Maria or anyone else on the board.
We don't even start the shift until 6 p.m. So it's not like we're taking people to the grocery store or, but what I don't want is the drivers to have to decide and discern. There's another concern on the table, which is, how would you feel if you weren't drunk and you had to be drunk in order to get a ride and someone told you you couldn't get a ride? I don't want my drivers in that position, and I certainly don't want them to have to discern who's drunk or not drunk. And then someone drives home and my driver told them they couldn't pick them up. So that's a decision that we made as a group that we would do that. And so we're happy to take another look at it.
Well,
And it's a
you
valid
just handed
concern.
up, Marie, this program integrity, just says the opposite of that. What, I mean, reaffirm the mission, sober rides home only. It says sober rides home, not general taxi service. You're saying just different than that right now. What?
Yeah, if you had looked at just, I think that you're absolutely right. The mission is a sober ride home. But in order to achieve that, I think part of that is making sure that people, if they don't have a vehicle downtown, the temptation to drive that vehicle home drunk is taken away. And so it's just part of one spoke of the wheel, if you know what I mean.
Kind of.
And especially if you throw the tourism part in here of this thing of the Chamber of Commerce and everything like that. If they're doing a tourism thing, I mean, the tourists got a lot of dang money to bring them downtown.
They do, yeah.
I mean, that's what, this whole thing has been that way when 2 years ago, when here was out of money, you run out of money, we were trying to figure
That
out
was the first year.
how
Yeah.
to refund it and anything. And that's when this issue came up, but you don't go to fairgrounds and bring people. It wasn't a taxi service is what we got.
And we're not doing
That's
that
what he
anymore.
keeps saying on that part of it. And that's what I'm here to hear today, because that's what I heard the big thing is, you go to the motel, bring them downtown, you know, there's a thing in some places I read today, took people to McDonald's, taking people to Argenta, Forest Grant.
Yeah, I think. there's
Those
one
are the kind of
things-
things that are just a little bit out of the, whether they're all rumors or whatever, that's
You
just a
took
little
someone to
bit extreme.
McDonald's?
What it says around here.
And I don't know about out of Beaverhead County.
Yeah, and I think that there's,
I mean, that's all,
Yeah.
kind of go.
If I know about it, so we have a dispatcher. If I know that there's something going on with the driver, I address it immediately. For example, 2 of our drivers, one actually put a Facebook ad out, putting their own phone number on there. That is bad for our sponsors. We don't want to do that. So I corrected that immediately, and then right after that, the one that did it saw, or a person saw, another driver saw that they didn't, they're like, oh, we can promote ourselves. No, we shut that down. Anytime we know about something that is a problem, we definitely shut it down. In the real time. I
You
mean,
keep a
I'm-
log,
What's that?
you keep a log of where these people pick people up and deliver them.
We have driver logs. They
Yeah.
go into the reconciliation and they write down where the pickup is.
And the dispatches also, I was dispatched for the first night. The dispatchers also are writing down any of the calls that come through the phone.
Do they know where they deliver the people?
We know where they say
Yeah.
they're going, yes,
Yeah.
and then the driver is writing that down too.
And that's been addressed in my recap, John, in terms of improving the program. It might be an interesting thing to try on, putting an air tag in the actual driver's car so that we can follow them and we kind of do know where they are. But we haven't had that concern. They go down, they take their route, they get their assignment, they go do their pickup, they come back into town, they go around the block and they line up right at the bars. And they're just queuing up in line and everyone's loading up in the cars and they're going to the next destination. So we have no reason to believe that people are out there, you know, if that helps. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't do checks and balances on it, but we have thought through what recommendations could we do to, and I am here to have a transparent conversation about how you guys want it and how to improve it. Personally, I do feel disparaged quite a bit and it's very challenging because I put a lot of time, energy, and effort, and my goal is safety, always. I do all the fundraising, I recruit and talk to all the sponsors, I do recaps with the sponsors, I write thank you notes to them, and Natalie's helped out a lot. She's added an incredible amount of value where we're doing bartender incentive programs in terms of good behavior that we're watching too, to reward really good behavior and to get the whole community involved.
And one other thing I think you probably heard me say last week, if you watched this, you said this was the first year you got paid to do this?
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's the big concern. If you
No,
don't-
last year I got paid, sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, anyway, when that popped up, that is probably the biggest red flag in my mind to do it, is if you're on a board, you shouldn't be making money off the program.
We don't have any paperwork.
In my opinion, when you start hiring board members to do that, they're the ones that are voting whether right, wrong, or different to do this. Now, you're setting I mean, you've got to vote to set your own salary stuff. I see a real big problem with that. And then, you know, and it said it's got complicated,
I think we gotta
but
talk
if
to
it's
the board
got
chairs
complicated enough that Natalie can't handle, I mean, to do that, dump that on it, I mean, this is something different. I mean,
as far as contract the services out that Maria does, there is nobody better than Maria to do that. I would say probably in the world, but certainly in Beaverhead County. You know, and I've said it more than once, if I were ever to win the Powerball and win $1 billion, one of the first people I'd go poach is this one, to run a foundation to handle some of that stuff. And so as far as going out and knocking on doors and raising, you know, the money that it takes from the sponsorships and everything else, and then coordinating, you know, the advertising and the notice and the drivers and the training and the coordination and the dispatchers and the driving and where they're going to be and you know, all the way to going down with a staple gun and she's walking around the fairgrounds hanging up signs. You know, I mean, so if that role needs to be changed, great. But I you know, or restructured, you know, and I don't remember what the vote was whenever you know the task force decided Maria does so much work for this program and does such a good job. She should be compensated. You know, I would imagine that that was probably a unanimous vote with all the members, but I don't remember.
And just to try to emphasize too, Maria did try giving it to a non-board member. And there could be other people out there capable. I'm not saying I was, you know, the number 2 candidate, but I'm well-versed in a lot of areas. I can handle big projects. This is enormous.
But this is the structure that I keep looking at, is where this gets dangerous, is you got a board. If you're gonna contract this out and hire that outdone, so be it.
Mhm.
And that's what I keep thinking this, I mean, this only comes to this table here when there's a damn this in there.
I understand
All
that.
right, so if the board says gonna hire this out for, we got $20,000 to do whatever you're gonna do, X, Y, Z, you do it for $20,000.
Mhm.
I keep hearing that you got all this controversy and stuff, and it's not, I realize you do a great job, whatever. But you don't sit and be your own boss and hire this thing done with yourself. That is one of my
Well, I hold
confusion.
myself accountable to that level, and I will tell you this too, I don't need to get paid.
Are we
You
short of
don't need
money?
to pay me this year if you don't want to. My whole thing is to work this hard and to do that as a volunteer. It's frustrating when we have meetings without quorums and we're coming to commissioners and talking about performance, and I'm not even here to defend myself or to say, you know, my piece on that. That was done wrong. We're
This-
talking process, Mike,
This is
honestly.
supposed to go to the board. I mean,
Yeah.
are you over budget on this? I guess, well, I gotta ask the board. Do we have the money to do this? I get to pay all the bills. That's the question I gotta ask.
So the way the financials were set up is that I would raise the 12,000 and the balance would be paid for with restitution charges, right? Is that what you call it? Yeah. That had been built up over time to pay for the campaign. It's growing year over year. The last 2 years ago, we did 1,523 rides. This year we did 1,609. In the 1523 year, you guys told us no rides from the fairgrounds to the bars. We listened, we did that. We would not allow that. And that's great feedback. And we implemented that immediately. We did not hesitate. That is like something that is an ironclad rule right now. So, we're here to take feedback and make it better and improve, but, you know, I'm frustrated that I wasn't able to have a conversation, not with my team, with the DOI task force, to have a conversation about what the challenges or opportunities were before coming to you guys.
Who's the chairman of the board?
Monique Schofield.
Okay, who's the, are you out of money for this year's funding? That's the question I gotta ask.
Is it somewhere in there says you're 3,000 short?
Well, I don't know the answer to that because we had a planned DUI task force meeting and we were all planning on going, and then that got canceled, and then they tried to do a quorum meeting and no one could make it because it was just a couple days later, and then you guys were talking, so I don't know. I don't know where we're at.
Okay, well, we were told the drivers needed to be paid. I mean, in the
Yeah.
business. That's why it came to here to pay, make sure we get the authorized to pay it because the task force wasn't together to do it. That's what we did last week. Then to start asking these questions, once again, are we short money? Or if you are, what happened? Is that why it's coming to us?
Last year was $17,000, and with the surge year over year, we projected $20,000 as our budget ask. I have a reconciliation financially. It says that we're $82 to the good for my calculations. The reason usually when I work with Betty, I would submit that, and then she and I would sit down. This has been our process, and she would ask me questions, and sometimes her numbers were a tiny bit different than that. Never more than 10%, which is a fair error rate. I mean, I'm not a financier. I don't do that for a living. So, but we have process in place for all of this and protocol, and I don't make decisions that aren't approved by the group. So I don't know. I guess I'd really like to hear what you think needs to be improved. Financial, I hear. We will go to work on that as a task force. And I think too, maybe when we approve the dollar amount for the budget, we communicate to you guys that we did that. So a year before the program starts, what that looks like.
And I'm not saying not to do that, But most of these boards, that's the way they're set up to do is sort of handle this yourself with guidelines. And that's why I said that
I'm
I'm not
not the
accusing
chair.
anybody of stealing
No, I
that.
know.
But when you got a volunteer board there and you're contracting this out, the contractor shouldn't be the one paying the bills. It should go to the chairman or the treasurer or the board, and then the board's gonna be, it's just that check and balance. It
I
is
love
that.
checks and
I know.
balances. I'm the
But
first
but
one, but I'm not the chair. So like, I don't even have a contract.
That'd be the number one thing, and I don't know, I'm not an attorney, so I'd ask an attorney. That's an unwritten rule, Sky, but I don't like paying board members to do projects. That's just,
It's a
am I
slippery
gonna-
slope. I don't think you're wrong.
okay,
I don't think it's illegal. I don't think it's,
no,
I
it, no,
don't think it's ethically wrong, but I do know that it presents a gray area. And if you're gonna do that,
Mhm.
you have to have an insane amount of transparency on where that money's going and what it's being used for. And I think that that's something that we're working hard to make sure gets taken care of. So if there's gonna be somebody that is paid on the board, that the board as a whole agrees that it's the right thing to do, and that it's a good use of money, so that we can, but I understand that it is a slippery slope. And then if not done correctly, there's a lot of temptation there.
so, not temptation, but it's perception is reality.
Absolutely.
And that is where this stuff gets all the time on this, and that's why I would just say,
Yeah,
if you're gonna ask me, or if you put it here, I would say no board members get paid. Working in their duty of that
Capacity.
task force, or of that, or like I said, we run into it at the fairgrounds, the same way, fair board members, and it gets scary, in my opinion.
I was asked to step up as a volunteer and I have for the last 3 years, and I'm fine not getting paid this year. I don't do it to get paid. It's not why I do it. I do it to keep people safe. And I run a children's nonprofit. I'm really interested in making sure people aren't driving. This guy here he needs a lot of support, and we have 15 people on the road that are ears and eyes for that law enforcement team. We are constantly giving them information. They are the best team in the world when it comes to we work so well together, and Natalie did a lot of work with the law enforcement, this year too. And I mean, Joel, I don't know if you want to say anything about your experience this year, but.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that this is a very successful program. It's been going on. It's only becoming more successful. And without what we were discussing a little bit beforehand, is it's super hard to get an accurate description of how much we are affecting driving under the influence, right? If you go purely off of what we're catching, that's a skewed number, right? Besides having an anonymous poll of everybody that was in Dillon over Labor Day weekend and expecting them to say, yes, I drove drunk, or no, I didn't because I got a sober ride, it's impossible to accurately determine that. I can tell you, our parking lots do not stay full after 2:00 in the morning, right? So the giving rides to the bars, I can speak from people that I've talked to or personal experience. You go to the bars with all good intentions, I'm gonna get a sober ride home, and then after a couple of drinks, you're looking at your car saying, well, I don't want it to be broken into tonight. And you're looking for any excuse to get that out of that parking lot. And that happens. And we see that quite a bit. People with good intentions still end up driving home drunk. And this is one of those programs where we can affect that vehicle and we just take it out of the equation from the get-go. It's highly beneficial. And I'm super glad with the partnership that we've had with this, that I think that it has positively affected our community.
And the number of DUIs you heard this year, Labor Day, I mean, like I said, it goes down.
Yeah.
But it takes away the funding to do what you just say.
If we need to raise more money, Mike, we'll go raise it.
I know.
I just need to know.
But this is one of the things that, I go to a lot of conferences where they get a little crazy too. Every place I go has got a Uber thing. Does Dillon have Uber rides, or even during Labor Day time?
You know, that's that's up to people that want to sign up for
Yeah.
Uber and work for Uber.
I know, that's where I said this thing is about to get to. So even without an Uber ride, if I had my insurance company collected up and then I want to put out on Facebook that I'm gonna do this, that's sort of against what you're wanting to do, that people are doing it privately.
Well, they
No, we
can certainly
just
do
had
it
two.
privately,
Huh?
if you don't mind. We just don't want people trying to promote themselves through the Sober Rides program so that they're kind of in line and maybe they're not following the protocols of the program where you come downtown, you get in line, you wait your turn to pick up the next group of people and off you go. If you're publishing your own phone number, somebody might call from Crannies and need a ride to Sparky's, or you need a ride to the Golden 2 blocks down. Like, that's not what this is all about. But if they've got their own phone number, and they're trying to get paid from the county or from the program to do that, that's not appropriate. But I don't think we would ever fault somebody for signing up for Uber and
No.
offering that service. That'd be great if we had more of that around.
But if they market themselves under the brand name, which is something that our sponsors pay for, that's not okay.
Yeah.
Because those sponsors they're not a part of the branded program.
And
They're not trained the way that, they might be trained by Uber, but like we go through, Joel is at my house, we have a dinner at my house, we train, he and Natalie trained the entire team this year. We go through, we check their vehicles, we check their IDs, we make sure they have the right belts in the car, we do background checks, we make sure that they show up the day that they drive, they show up with the same car that we just approved, we have pictures of it and we reconcile it. That's how she helped me this year as well. So we're really careful. That's more careful than an Uber is going to be. Because we know we represent our town, we represent our county, and we're really trying to be safe.
Joe?
Did you have a question?
I'm a driver. I'm also Maria's husband. So I've been involved in this process now for four years. I drove the first year and then I drove a little bit this year. But mostly this year, I didn't have time to drive because I did a bunch of background support for not only the Sober Rides campaign, but the Beaverhead Bus Brigade that my wife was also involved in trying to launch. So as far as it comes to, are we picking up a ton of people? No. A bunch of us sit around and we wait. We spend hours waiting for something to happen. When it does happen, in the evening, from midnight to, 2:30 in the morning, it's very busy and it's lucrative. It's worth your time up there.
Because of tips?
No, you don't get that much in tips. It's the $10 per head. $10 per rider is what makes you the money, right? And then you get some tips on top of that. The older people, would give you tips. The college kids rarely gave you tips. And over the last 2 years, because I've also been involved in dispatch, because our son Lucas did dispatch for 2 years this year. And, I stayed with him, up at night to keep him awake because you're dispatching until 3 in the morning. The time that you sit there and wait and it's mostly picking up people from the hotels. The local people, there's some of those, not, getting a ride into the fairgrounds. But most of them have their own thing going on, and the college kids walk. So it's mostly getting tourists that are coming in for the weekend, picking them up and taking them to the fairgrounds. And we all wait around for that, and it's pretty slow. And then during that short little time period, it's busy, and then it's slow. This is not a huge service of we're picking up everybody everywhere and taking them all over. It's in conjunction with going to that fairgrounds and going to that concert and going to that rodeo. Those are the 2 nights that are busy. Yet the other night, you're sitting around doing not much until the bar. And then, as far as I heard I wasn't directly involved with what happened with the hospital, but I talked to one of the drivers that took people to the hospital and then apparently took someone from the hospital back out of there again. one of the persons had a terrible incident, as far as I can, the guy said she had she had an overdose. So her friends, who were all drunk, wanted to, find out what's going on with her, wanted to, be there, for her. So this, that one incident of, the hospital to do with, somebody having a, critical situation, as far as I understand. Now, maybe law enforcement knows better on that one, but, it's an outlier. We're not running people around all over the place. We're picking them up from a safe location, taking them to the fairgrounds. It's not even taking them downtown, it's taking them to the fairgrounds, almost in all cases.
I was working dispatch when that call came in, and we had, I think, 15 riders that were drunk, desperately wanting to go to the hospital because some of them had heard that their friend had died. So we were able to get cars really quickly to get those people safely to the hospital, and then nurses were calling me and saying, hey, come get these people out of here. So just being able to transport them, I would imagine saved a lot of DUI time, a lot of, calls to the police, drunk, frantic people. One other quick story that I want to share in case you haven't heard of it is one of our drivers on the way home at 3 a.m. found somebody in the ditch. And he, after he brought his family safely home, he turned around and just with the different training and support that he had from us, he called law enforcement, helped get their whole crew DUIs, but also probably saved that young man's life because he just saw a hat on the road and then the person in the ditch. So just a lot of significant things happen too. Just think of the money and the time that they're diverted away from 911 dispatch and the emergency room, since somebody like I was able to just talk to all those drunk people instead of people that are being paid to be nurses and doctors. It's just significant as well.
Well, as a board then, lessons learned. If somebody called for a ride to the hospital again, what would you do?
If they were drinking and saying they needed a ride desperately, I would advise that they get it.
And then the friends start calling, want to go to the hospital, would you still give people more rides to the hospital, all the friends? And then the nurses call and want to give them the heck out of there. That is, to me, is the kind of stuff that the board ought to figure out. Don't do that again. If that's the stuff that's causing problems. I mean, if somebody was desperately ill, I mean, that's a long ways from your mission, I'll tell you that. And that is, I don't know, I mean, there could be liabilities and stuff. There's a ambulance serving everything. And I don't know. This is just the stuff that very little of this ought to be coming to this desk. This is the DUI task force matter. If they ask me opinions, no, you don't pay board members. You don't give rides downtown. All due respect to what it is, I know what you're talking about, but I don't think that's the mission of this thing. But if all the board members said opposite, why would you go get somebody in the motel and bring them and not from the fairgrounds and bring them?
How many board members are here today?
I don't know if I'm officially a board member or not, because
Yeah.
the position is.
You will be by Wednesday, maybe, huh?
Maybe.
All right. Yeah, but no, that's the kind of stuff.
How many board members are on the board?
Was there 7? It's sheriff, chief of police, city attorney, county attorney,
Board of Health,
board of health,
Trooper.
myself,
Maria,
Kim.
Kim,
Monique, Shannon,
and Monique, so that's
and
8.
Shannon.
Yeah.
9. Shannon, you're a member too, aren't you there? There's 13. We're missing some spots.
We're missing 2 spots.
Got it. 13, we're missing 2. Thank you.
That's a big board.
And recently, I've been traveling and stuff in my office. I haven't made the last couple of meetings, and I know that there's been issues with getting a quorum and trying to get all this stuff taken care of. And I can certainly recognize that is more than frustrating, but I think it's a good program. I think it should continue. And I think that, we learn lessons every year.
How many other counties in the state do this?
I think it's 0.
Helena does it.
Do they?
Mhm.
Most of our
I was
counties,
off by 1.
they're in the stand, they do.
there's a ton of people that get a ride that are so impressed that this community does that for them. So, you know, I don't hear, you know, negative feedback. I hear positive feedback of, gee, this is so amazing.
Mhm.
And, you know, I want to come back next year because your community is, you know, cares about me and is keeping me safe.
Is that, you know, that ride to the fairgrounds today?
Yeah, if we pick somebody up at the hotel and take them to the fair.
Okay, that's $10.
No,
Is that a $10 ride?
Per
Okay.
person.
Per person, okay. Then if you leave the fairgrounds to go wherever.
Well, they're not getting
Never-
rides
you
from the
don't ever pick
fairgrounds
up at the
anywhere.
fairgrounds. Now downtown,
Like
it's
walk
another
there.
$10 out where you.
Downtown to home.
I see what you're saying.
People go to the rodeo and they get drunk. Then they need a ride back. Some people go down to the bars and, you know, the first year in the program, you know, we didn't have guidelines, so we just took people from the fairgrounds and delivered them. And then, you know, that got abused. So we've, you know, weeded out, you know, I'm saying we, because, you know, we've worked through this as a family.
Mhm.
My kids have, you know, been involved in this, and my wife and I have been involved with this. You know, we, like Sky said, we go out, we do the postering, you know, Natalie helped a huge amount. You know, this is not something my wife wants to be like all involved in. You know, she's trying to get out of this. So, you know, we're trying to
For
find,
this
you know,
reason.
alternative situations, but nobody, you know, I mean, this is a program now that, you know, people expect.
Mhm.
So, you know, you can, you know, get rid of the program completely, or you can try to modify it, but, you know, you're gonna have to have somebody else do it.
And it's hard to put a quantifiable number on the positive effect. Because you can't say, we have prevented 4 deaths from drunk drivers, or 5 deaths, or 3 deaths. You can't put you can't do that.
You don't want to put them.
Well, no, but if, you know, but if it's 1, it's worth it. And if it's 0, it could have been 1, it's worth it. It's 4 or 5 up from there, great.
Becky, you have something?
I know at one point it was said that not take them from the bars to the fairgrounds, but a point was made at one point that a lot of the people that are parking downtown are staying at the fairgrounds. So why is that a bad thing?
What, you mean trailers or something?
Taking the bars to the fairgrounds because they're gonna be driving. It's no different than taking them home.
Yeah, that's certainly one thing, but you know.
You gotta.
We made a decision as a task force though, and it's great you brought that up, Becky, but we did make a decision, no bars to the fairgrounds or reverse this year.
It's close enough.
We did it one year and it was actually, I don't know if you remember this, we did it one year and there were way too many rides going in such a short space. And we just didn't think that was a good use of our sponsors' money and your money, and so we,
And it
Change
was
that.
stated big time from the fairgrounds to the bars.
yes.
But I assumed that was taking people from their home to the bars, from the fairground, from the motel. That is what's confusing me, is I mean, why take somebody that's probably half drunk from the fair downtown so you can get drunk or so you can take them back home?
Oh, yeah.
It was the same way at the motel.
That made sense.
And it's almost the same way. Grab something from the motel, bring them downtown to get drunk, so you take them home. You know, that's not what it said.
Yeah,
So
right.
to finish this thing up,
Bring them downtown so they're not bringing their car to avoid a DUI.
Because if
Or
you don't,
fatality.
they're gonna drink and drive.
yeah, I mean, but there's a lot of people stay at the fairground during 4-H time. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that should be written down crystal clear and
Agreed.
that's what, if you would have brought this to me, this back page right now, what we're talking about, you don't do it. That's what I said. You don't take people to the hospital.
I think.
Sure as hell don't take their friends. I wouldn't say. I mean, I don't know. That's the task
Right.
force.
When you asked if I would do it again, I would though, because we're not in charge of where people
It's
are
a moral
wanting to
judgment.
get. It was about a half-a-mile ride and those people were going to the hospital.
Yeah.
They were going to
Got
go, whether they were gonna walk or get into a car and drive, and it's not it wasn't my call, and I still think it's not, to decide if they go to the hospital or not, or if they come home from the hospital to see if their friend is dead. So I still would, if somebody wanted to ride drunk, I'd give them a ride, yeah.
Can I ask for just a point of clarification for my own self? Did we give the person that was in the medical emergency a ride?
No, they were.
No.
ambulance.
They were transported by an ambulance. So we just gave the friends a ride to go check on
Because
them.
they've been drinking.
Because that would be a huge liability to
Right.
Oh,
being
yeah, she was in an
an
Yeah, there's no
emergency medical
medical
service.
transport.
We just gave a drunk person a ride to the hospital to check on the friend.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay.
And then one thing to clarify too, so there's a bunch of people that stayed back in behind the 4-H area, that they brought in their campers, right?
Yeah.
And so they would come and get in my car, and then they wanted me to take them there. So, and then there was a couple times, you know, we put up a check station down from the fairgrounds. And, people got in my vehicle there and wanted to ride. So if I thought it was in a, you know, I gave them a ride, but I didn't charge for it. So if I thought it wasn't, you know, within the, you know, realms of what, you know, was the intention of the program, I provided the ride without charging. And when we saw people in the past that had abused that ride system, they didn't get to drive the next year. There were some people that had some very padded numbers that were just running around trying to get people in their car, and they got cut off. 2 years in a row, we had someone like that.
And I've been yelled at and questioned about that every time, and I say, look at your carnival barking at the people that are getting rides. We're just not gonna put you back on. It's not the spirit of the program. It's not what we're doing. So there was some question on how we recruit drivers. It's first comes, first served. Now it's by word of mouth. If they pass their background check and they clear every other thing like insurance, seatbelts in the car, clean car, all the things, then we put them on. And if they're not doing what they need to do, I'll take them on right in the beginning if they aren't listening and are not, and they know it. I mean, you know, you heard me this year hold some people accountable and said, do that again and you're done. So.
Well, it looks to me like you got a 13-member board, that they should be able to run this thing. It shouldn't be in here.
I agree. The only reason I'm here, John, is that we didn't have a quorum and I didn't get a chance to say.
That's
have
an
these
issue with the board.
conversations. What's that?
That's an issue with the board.
Right?
Say you've got issues.
That's seven members.
Mhm.
You got a budget, you gotta stick to it.
Yeah, that's, and then you're responsible for the overage, running around the street trying to gather up money.
Oh, I've done that before too, when we are over, because we can't determine how many people are going. I'm not gonna say no to someone at 2 a.m. that's drunk. When we have the program running, we're gonna give them a ride, even if we're over budget. Like, I hate to say it, but that's when I went out and got more sponsors in my free time, right? So we're trying to do it right, is the point.
Is there,
And we clearly have some things to work out.
and you're over now by what?
I'm plus $82 based on what I thought our budget was and what we agreed on, which was $20,000 is what I pitched. I went into the board meeting, I pitched the 20,000, and I was 82 short of $20,000.
Then,
12,000, which was raised through sponsors. And I didn't have a conversation with anyone that we needed to raise the gap, but if we do, I can do that. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
And I also don't need to get paid. We can pull that money back out either. But we need solid process on like what the budget is, and people need to understand that and agree to it so that we don't have this confusion. It's one big takeaway for the board. I'm not the board chair. The board chair is not here.
Yeah.
So. Any other questions or comments?
No, well, my biggest thing is, I still think that that's what the board needs to do is going forward. This year's done, is go ahead and I would drastically ask the board to consider this thing, paying board members.
Yeah,
So either you be a
That's fair.
volunteer or you contract it out, get, step off and do it. And then bring this guidelines to us so we know what rules we're playing by.
Changes your liability situation.
Cause if you, I mean, I don't handle.
We're looking
handle
to
the-
your leadership. Every single year that I've done this program, I've come back in and been accountable to you. This is the
Yeah.
1 year because I was launching an entire another nonprofit.
Yep.
It took me a while to get here. You know, I had other dueling priorities, had to do it. So, you know, we're here and, in hindsight, I should have come to you like I always did a day or two after the program. That Monday, I was here giving you a report, and I didn't do that this year. But I also only have so much bandwidth, and it's getting bigger and it's getting harder to manage. You know, we've got to fix some systems, obviously, to improve that, but.
Yeah.
And my intention and my spirit of it is about the safety of our community, and it is about doing the right ethical thing with full transparency. Every one of these documents that you see is on the Google Drive, and I have sent that link out to the entire DUI Task Force Board. I'm not hiding anything. I'm not doing anything nefarious. I want to be clear because I didn't get a chance to say that when people came and talked to you without talking to me after I submitted reconciliation.
Do any of your large sponsors ask for any of this information?
I give them that executive recap that I had given to Shannon. It's a 2-page recap of everything that's gone on. And then at the bottom, I ask them for money for the following year,
The
so they can hold it in their budget.
The dollar distribution and all that.
Mhm. How the money was spent, what the amount of DUIs, I get the information from your dispatcher, all of it. It's everything that's, I can send you the executive summary as a recap if you'd like to see what we send to the
That would-
sponsors.
I would be interested.
Mhm. Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you're a major sponsor.
Our sponsors love it, and we have people that want to get into it. But there's only so much space that you can put on there and make the sponsors feel good before it looks like a race car.
Yeah.
So,
Anybody else? Anything else?
thank you for your comments and your feedback, and we will go to work on making it better.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Taking the time with me.
Do we have a meeting that's scheduled right now?
There's none in the books. Thank you.
This guy over here, does he still live behind the fish hook?
Yes.
Still do, 40 years, I've been doing 40 years.
I know.
Shoveling water.
Yeah,
Even those up.
right, right. Right, thank you.